If you think you're ready for this story, you're not. This is the kind of case that'll haunt you long after you hit pause. So before we dive into the darkness, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell, and drop a comment telling me if you can handle what's coming. Because once we start, there's no turning back. December 23rd, 2019. Snow was falling thick over Millbrook, Pennsylvania, coating the quiet suburban streets in a blanket of white that should have felt peaceful. Detective Sarah Chen had just poured her third coffee of the morning when the call came through. Dispatch's voice was tight, controlled, but Chen could hear something underneath it. "Faye, we've got a 911 from 4782 Oakwood Drive. Female caller, mid-20s, says she's locked in a room and needs help. Call disconnected after 15 seconds. Units are en route. But detective, there's something you need to know. That address, it's been flagged before." Chen grabbed her coat, her mind already racing. Flag meant history. It meant this house had been on their radar, maybe for domestic disputes, maybe for something worse. Her partner, Detective Marcus Webb, was already at the door, keys in hand. They'd worked together for 7 years, and he could read her expression like a book. "Bad one?" he asked. "Don't know yet," Chen replied, but her gut was already telling her different. 23 years on the force had given her an instinct for these things, and right now, every nerve in her body was screaming that this wasn't just another domestic call. The drive to Oakwood Drive took 8 minutes. 8 minutes that felt like an eternity. When they arrived, 2 patrol units were already there, officers standing on the snow-covered lawn, their faces pale. The house itself looked normal, almost aggressively so. A 2-story colonial with white shutters, Christmas lights strung carefully along the roofline, a wreath on the front door. The kind of house you'd see in a holiday catalog. The kind of house where nothing bad should ever happen. Officer Rodriguez met them at the curb. He was young, maybe 26, and his hands were shaking. "Detectives, we've got a situation." The front door was unlocked when we arrived. We did a sweep of the first floor. Everything looks clean, normal. But there's a door in the hallway, locked from the outside, heavy-duty deadbolt, and we can hear someone moving behind it. Chen's stomach dropped. A door locked from the outside, in a residential home. Nothing about that was normal. "Have you made contact?" Webb asked. "We've been calling through the door." No response. But the movement stopped when we started knocking. They approached the house, boots crunching in the snow, and Chen noticed something that made her pause. The Christmas decorations, the carefully shoveled walkway, the pristine exterior, everything screamed normalcy. But the windows, every single window had curtains drawn tight, even in the middle of the day. No light escaped, no view inside. The inside of the house was worse. The first floor was immaculate. Not clean, immaculate. The kind of clean that felt obsessive. White walls, beige furniture, everything in its place. No photographs on the walls. No personal touches. It felt like a staged home, not a lived-in one. And hanging in the air was a smell that Chen couldn't quite place. Antiseptic, but underneath it, something else. Something organic and wrong. The locked door was in a hallway off the kitchen. It looked like it should lead to a basement, but someone had reinforced it. New hinges, a commercial-grade deadbolt, and at the bottom, Chen noticed fresh scratches in the wood. Fingernail scratches. "Millbrook Police," Chen called out, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We received a 911 call from this address. We're here to help. Can you hear me?" Silence. Then, so faint she almost missed it, a whisper, "He's coming back." Webb stepped forward. "Who's coming back?" "We need you to tell us what's happening. Are you hurt? Is there anyone else in the house?" "You don't understand." The voice came again, stronger now, laced with terror that made Chen's blood run cold. "He's always coming back. He won't let me leave. He won't let any of us leave." "Any of us?" Chen's eyes met Webb's. Without a word, Webb got on his radio. "Dispatch, we need backup at 4782 Oakwood. Multiple potential victims. Repeat, multiple victims. Also get me a unit to canvass the neighbors. I want to know who lives here, where they work, everything." While Webb coordinated, Chen knelt by the door, pressing her face close to the gap. "Listen to me. My name is Sarah. I'm a detective, and I promise you, we're going to get you out of there. But I need you to tell me, how many people are with you?" The silence stretched so long that Chen thought the woman had moved away. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, broken and hollow, the answer came. "I don't know anymore. Some of them, they stopped moving, stopped talking. I think it's been keeping us here for, God, I don't even know what year it is." Chen felt her stomach turn to ice. Webb was already on the phone with the fire department, getting them to bring equipment to breach the door. But Chen couldn't wait. She needed to understand what they were walking into. "How long have you been here?" Chen asked, her voice gentle despite the urgency clawing at her chest. "I came here for a babysitting job. December 2009. I was 22. I never left. 10 years. 10 years locked behind this door. Can you tell me your name?" Chen asked. "Emma. Emma Price. My parents. Are they still looking for me?" Chen's throat tightened. Emma Price. The name hit her like a freight train. She'd been a rookie when Emma Price disappeared. 22-year-old college student, vanished responding to a Craigslist ad for a babysitting job. The case had gone cold within months. No body, no leads, no trace. And now, here she was, her voice coming from behind a locked door, 10 years later. "Emma, yes, people are still looking for you. Your family never stopped. And we're going to get you out. I promise." The fire department arrived, and they began working on the door. The sound of power tools filled the house, metal screeching against metal. Chen stepped back, letting professionals work, but her mind was racing. If Emma was here, if she'd been here for 10 years, then who else was behind that door? And more importantly, where was the person who put them there? Detectives. Rodriguez called from outside. Neighbors say the house is owned by David Marsh. 48 years old, works as a guidance counselor at Millbrook High School, drives a blue Honda Civic. According to his work, he called in sick today, said he was visiting family for Christmas. A guidance counselor, someone who worked with children, someone trusted by the community. Chen felt rage building in her chest, but she pushed it down. She needed to stay focused. The door gave way with a final groan of protesting metal. The officers pulled it open, and what greeted them was darkness. A stairway leading down into a basement, but the smell that rose up was overwhelming. Unwashed bodies, human waste, decay, and underneath it all, fear. The kind of fear that seeps into walls and never leaves. Chen descended first, flashlight cutting through the darkness. The basement had been divided into sections with makeshift walls. In the first section, she found Emma, rail-thin, her hair matted, wearing clothes that were little more than rags, but alive and crying. But it was what Chen saw beyond Emma that made her stop breathing. Because Emma wasn't alone down there. And some of them, God help them, some of them weren't moving at all. But when they opened the second cell and saw what was written on the wall in dried blood, the investigation took a turn nobody was prepared for. Because the message wasn't from a victim begging for help. It was a warning, and it was dated 3 days ago. His not working alone. Detective Chen's flashlight beam traced the words again. His not working alone. The letters were uneven, scratched into the concrete wall with what looked like a piece of broken metal. Her mind raced through the implications. If David Marsh had an accomplice, then they were dealing with something far more organized than a single predator. They were dealing with a network. "Webb, get forensics down here now," Chen called up the stairs. "And I want every person who's ever had contact with David Marsh interviewed within the hour. Teachers, neighbors, family, everyone." The basement was bigger than it should have been. Someone had excavated beyond the original foundation, creating a warren of small rooms, each one a prison cell. In total, they found 5 women. Emma Price was the strongest, the only one capable of speech. The others were in various states of physical and psychological trauma. 2 were unconscious, their vital signs weak but present. The medical teams worked frantically, bringing stretchers down the narrow stairway, hooking up falls, calling out blood pressures and heart rates in urgent voices. But it was a third room that stopped everyone cold. It was empty except for a metal chair bolted to the floor and a video camera on a tripod, its red recording light still blinking. Webb approached it carefully, his latex gloves leaving no prints as he examined the setup. The camera was professional grade, not something you'd pick up at a consumer electronics store. It was connected to a laptop, and when Webb opened the screen, his face went white. "Chen, you need to see this." The laptop showed a file directory. Hundreds of folders, each one labeled with dates going back 15 years. 15 years. Chen clicked on the most recent folder, and her blood turned to ice. Videos. Dozens of them. Each thumbnail showed one of the women from the basement, and the titles made Chen's stomach churn. These weren't just recordings of captivity. They were being sold. Distributed. Monetized. "This is a production facility," Webb said, his voice hollow. Marsh wasn't just keeping them. He was filming them, selling access. "This is darknet material, Chen. This is organized crime." Emma had been moved upstairs, wrapped in blankets, clutching a bottle of water like it was the most precious thing in the world. Chen sat across from her in the back of an ambulance, knowing she had minutes before Emma would be taken to the hospital, minutes to get information that could save lives. "Emma, I know this is hard, but I need you to focus." The message on the wall, the one about him not working alone. "Did you write that?" Emma shook her head, her eyes distant. "That was Melissa. She's been here longer than me. She heard them talking sometimes, when they thought we were all asleep. There's someone else. A woman. She'd come every few months. Bring supplies, help him move us around if we got too weak. Melissa said she heard them arguing once about money, about the videos not making enough." A woman. Chen's mind reeled. Female accomplices in cases like this were rare but not unheard of. Often partners. Sometimes relatives. Occasionally someone who'd been groomed into participation. But what Emma said next changed everything. Melissa said the woman worked at the police station. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Chen felt the ground shift beneath her. Someone in law enforcement. Someone with access to case files, to missing persons reports, to investigation details. Someone who could make sure certain leads went cold, certain tips got lost, certain addresses never got properly investigated. Webb had heard it too. His face had gone hard, his jaw clenched. Emma. Did Melissa ever hear a name? Anything that could identify this woman? Emma's eyes filled with tears. "She called her J. That's all I know. Just the letter J." Chen's radio crackled. It was Rodriguez, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Detectives, we've got a situation. David Marsh's Honda Civic was just spotted at Millbrook High School. Multiple units responding, but there's an active Christmas assembly. 300 students in the auditorium." The world seemed to slow down. Marsh was at a school full of children, during an assembly where everyone would be gathered in one place, where exits could be controlled, where a desperate man with nothing left to lose could do unimaginable damage. "Go!" Webb shouted, already sprinting toward their vehicle. Chen was right behind him, her mind calculating distances, response times, worst-case scenarios. The high school was 12 minutes away. 12 minutes that could mean everything. They made it in 8, lights blazing, sirens screaming. The school parking lot was chaos. Parents were arriving, confused and frightened by the sudden police presence. Officers were setting up a perimeter, evacuating students through side exits, trying to maintain order in a situation that was spiraling out of control. Principal Margaret Morrison met them at the entrance, her face ashen. "He's in there, in the auditorium." He said he needed to make an announcement before the assembly ended. I thought it was about counseling services for the break. He went up on stage, and then, God, he locked the doors from the inside. 300 kids. Detective. 300 kids, and has got them all trapped in there. Through the auditorium windows, Chen could see student press against the glass, some crying, some trying to remain calm. And on the stage, visible through the small windows in the doors, stood David Marsh. But he wasn't alone. Next to him stood a woman in a police uniform, her hand resting on her service weapon, her face calm and composed. Officer Jennifer Dawson, 29 years old, on the force for 6 years. Her personnel file was spotless. Her evaluations were exemplary. And right now, she was standing on a stage with David Marsh, blocking the only exit from an auditorium full of children. J. Officer Jennifer Dawson. Chen's radio buzzed. It was a SWAT commander, his voice clinical and detached. We've got eyes through the upper windows. Marsh is wearing what appears to be a suicide vest. Can't confirm if it's real or fake from this distance, but we're treating it as active threat. Dawson is armed. Standard issue Glock, holster unsnapped. She's in position to fire on the crowd if provoked. This wasn't just about escape anymore. This was a statement, a final act of control. If Marsh couldn't have his victims in the basement, he'd create new ones in front of cameras, in front of the world. Chen's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered, and David Marsh's voice came through, calm and pleasant, like he was discussing weekend plans. Detective Chen, I assume that's who I'm speaking with. Sarah Chen, 7 years on major crimes, excellent closure rate, known for your empathy with victims. I've been following your career. Jennifer's been very helpful in keeping me informed. David, let the children go. Whatever you want, whatever you need, we can discuss it. But those kids, they have nothing to do with this. Marsh laughed, a sound devoid of humanity. They have everything to do with this. Don't you see? For 10 years, I created something beautiful in that basement. A world where I had complete control, where everything followed my rules. And society let me do it. How many missing person reports were filed? How many tips were ignored? How many times did neighbors see something strange and say nothing? The world let me build my empire because nobody wanted to look too closely. And now I'm going to show everyone what they allowed to exist. The line went dead. Inside the auditorium, Marsh raised his arms, and the children began to scream. But what happened next, what Jennifer Dawson did in that moment, would haunt everyone who witnessed it. Because when she drew her weapon, she didn't aim it at the crowd. She aimed it at David Marsh. And the words she spoke into her radio, broadcast to every unit on scene, revealed a truth that nobody saw coming. This is Officer Dawson. I'm an undercover agent with the FBI. I've been embedded in Marsh's operation for 2 years. And he doesn't know that vest is wearing. I switched it out this morning. It's a fake. If you're still watching this, you're about to witness the most shocking conclusion to any true crime case I've ever covered. Drop a like right now, subscribe if you haven't already, and brace yourself. Because the final chapter will destroy everything you think you know about this case. The silence in the command center was absolute. Every officer, every agent, every person listening to the radio frequency had frozen. FBI. Jennifer Dawson was FBI. For 2 years, she'd been living a double life, getting close to one of the most dangerous predators any of them had encountered, and nobody knew. Chen's mind raced back through every interaction, every case file, every moment Dawson had been present. The missing persons reports that went nowhere. That was Dawson, keeping investigation surface level so Marsh wouldn't panic. The tips that got lost in the system. Dawson again, making sure nothing disrupted her long-term operation. She hadn't been helping Marsh evade justice. She'd been documenting everything, building an A-type case, mapping a network that extended far beyond one basement in Pennsylvania. In the auditorium, Marsh's face had gone from triumphant to confused. He looked down at the vest strapped to his chest, his fingers fumbling for the detonator. What are you talking about? I built this myself. I tested it. Dawson's voice was steady, her weapon never wavering. You tested the one I let you test. This morning, while you were in the shower, I switched it. That's a stage prop, David. Wires and lead lights. You're not going to hurt anyone today. Marsh's face contorted with rage. He lunged for Dawson, but she was ready. The SWAT team breached the doors simultaneously, flashbangs disorienting everyone in the room. Students screamed and dropped to the floor, hands over their heads, exactly as their active shooter drills had taught them. In the chaos, Dawson had Marsh on the ground, her knee in his back, cuffs snapping around his wrist with a decisive click. It was over in 4 to 5 seconds. The children were evacuated, shaken but unharmed. Parents rushed into the school, pulling their kids into desperate embraces. News helicopters circled overhead, already broadcasting breaking news alerts. And in the middle of it all, David Marsh was loaded into a police van, his face blank, Empty, a man who'd finally lost control of his carefully constructed world. But Chen couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. She found Dawson in the school parking lot, sitting on the hood of a patrol car, her FBI credentials now displayed openly on her chest. The younger woman looked exhausted, the weight of 2 years of undercover work etched into every line of her face. "How long have you known?" Dawson asked without preamble. "About 30 seconds before you revealed yourself," Chen admitted. "Emma mentioned a woman, someone with police access. Your personnel file was too perfect, Dawson. Nobody's that clean. And the way you positioned yourself in that auditorium, you weren't standing with Marsh. You were hurting him, controlling his angles, making sure he couldn't actually threaten the kids even if he wanted to." Dawson nodded slowly. 2 years ago, the FBI identified a darknet marketplace selling live streams of captive women. High-end stuff, encrypted, untraceable. But we found a pattern in the timestamps, geographical markers, and the metadata. It led us here, to Millbrook, to Marsh. I got myself hired at the local PD, made myself useful to him, gained his trust. He thought I was a corrupt cop on his payroll. I let him think that. "The women in that basement," Chen said carefully. "You knew they were there. For 2 years, you knew." The accusation hung heavy between them. Dawson's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. "Every single day, I knew, and every single day, I had to walk past that house knowing what was inside. But if I'd moved too soon, if I'd shut down Marshallone, the network would have scattered. We've identified 43 other individuals across 12 states involved in this operation. Producers, distributors, buyers, facilitators. Tonight, simultaneous raids are happening nationwide. We're taking down the entire network, Chen. All of it, because I waited. Architected shocking narrative twist to recontextualize story's conclusion. This is a powerful moment. I need to build to the shocking final twist now. The twist should be something that recontextualizes everything, something that makes viewers want to replay the video. Let me think about what would be truly shocking here. The twist could be, one of the victims was actually part of the operation. There's still someone out there. Something about the case that reveals a darker truth. A connection to something larger. I think the most impactful twist would be that Melissa, the one who wrote the warning, was found dead in the basement, and she left behind information that reveals something shocking, maybe that there are more locations, or that one of the victims was actually being groomed to replace Dawson as the inside person, or perhaps something about the scale being even bigger than they thought. Let me write toward a truly haunting ending. "How many?" Chen asked quietly. "How many did we lose while you built your case?" "1. Dawson's voice broke. "Melissa Hartman. She died 3 weeks ago. Malnutrition, organ failure. Marsh wouldn't get her medical attention because she tried to escape twice. I tried, Chen. I got him to at least give her water, vitamins. But it wasn't enough. She's the one who figured out I wasn't really on his side. She's the one who wrote that message on the wall, trying to help future investigators understand the scope. And I had to watch her die because the operation wasn't complete." The weight of that confession settled over both of them. The trolley problem made real. Sacrifice one to save many. Chen didn't know if she could have made that choice. She didn't know if it was the right choice. But it was a choice Dawson had lived with for 2 years. "The other women," Chen said, "will they recover?" "Emma will. She's strong. The others, physically they'll heal. Psychologically, that's going to take years, maybe lifetimes. But they're alive. And starting tomorrow, they'll know that the people who did this to them are facing justice. Real justice. Federal charges. No possibility of plea deals. No chance of falling through cracks in the system." The investigation that followed was the largest the FBI had conducted in a decade. The laptop from Marsh's basement led to servers, which led to encrypted communications, which led to a network of predators that had been operating in plain sight for 15 years. Teachers, counselors, social workers, people in positions of trust who had been using their access to identify vulnerable targets. By the end of the first week, 6 to 7 arrests had been made. By the end of the month, that number had climbed to over 200. Emma Price returned home to her family on New Year's Eve. The reunion was broadcast on every major news network, her parents sobbing as they held the daughter they believed was dead for 10 years. She gave one interview, her voice strong, her message clear. To everyone who's missing someone, don't stop looking. Don't stop believing. I'm proof that miracles happen. I'm proof that good people still exist, still fight, still care. David Marsh was sentenced to 12 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. At his sentencing, he showed no remorse, no emotion, nothing but the same blank emptiness that had characterized his arrest. He was transferred to a maximum security facility where he would spend the rest of his days in a cell not much bigger than the ones he'd kept his victims in. Justice, swift and complete. Or so everyone thought. 3 months later, Detective Sarah Chen was working late, closing out paperwork on the Marsh case, when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Detective Chen. The voice was female, young, frightened. My name is Sophie Brennan. I was in that basement, but I wasn't one of the 5 they found. Chen's blood turned to ice. What do you mean? I escaped. 2 years ago. Marsh had another house, another basement across town. He moved some of us around, kept us separated so we couldn't coordinate escapes. When I got out, I ran. I was so scared he'd find me. I didn't go to police. I left the state, changed my name, tried to forget. But I've been watching the news, and detective, there's something nobody's talking about. Something nobody knows. Tell me, Chen whispered. That FBI agent, Dawson, she's lying. She wasn't undercover. She was part of it from the beginning. I saw her, not just visiting, not just delivering supplies. She was downstairs with us, with the cameras, helping him film. She was smiling, detective. She enjoyed it. And whatever deal she cut with the FBI, whatever story she told them to save herself, it's not the truth. She's not a hero. She's a monster wearing a badge. The line went dead. Chen sat in stunned silence, her mind refusing to accept what she'd just heard. But then she remembered something. Something small, something she dismissed at the time. In Marsh's laptop, in those hundreds of folders of videos, there were some files that had been permanently deleted, wiped with professional-grade software. At the time, they'd assumed Marsh was covering his tracks. But what if it wasn't Marsh? What if Dawson had access to that laptop before it was seized? What if she deleted the files that showed her participation? Chen pulled up Dawson's personnel file again, looking at it with new eyes. The gaps in her work history before joining the Millbrook PD. The way she transferred from a department in Arizona that had coincidentally been shut down due to corruption charges. The recommendation letters that were just slightly too perfect, from supervisors who'd since retired or died. The puzzle pieces started fitting together in a way that made Chen's skin crawl. She reached for her phone to call Webb, to call someone, but then stopped. If Dawson really was FBI, if she really had connections at that level, accusing her without ironclad proof would end Chen's career. Worse, it might end her life. Chen opened a new file on her computer, password protected, encrypted. She began documenting everything, every inconsistency. Every question that didn't have an answer, building a case the way she'd built hundreds of cases before. Because if Sophie Brennan was telling the truth, then the real monster hadn't been caught at all. She was still out there, wearing a badge, calling herself a hero, and nobody suspected a thing. Chen looked at the photo on her desk, the one from the high school, the moment Dawson had arrested Marsh, the moment everyone thought the nightmare had ended. But now, looking at Dawson's face in that picture, Chen saw something she'd missed before. In the chaos, in the relief, nobody had noticed a small smile playing at the corners of Dawson's mouth. Not the smile of someone glad that children were safe. The smile of someone who'd gotten away with something. The smile of a predator who convinced everyone she was a hunter. Outside Chen's office window, snow began to fall again, coating Millbrook in another layer of white, making everything look clean and pure and innocent. But Chen knew better now. She knew that monsters didn't always look like David Marsh. Sometimes they looked like heroes. Sometimes they wore badges. Sometimes they were the last person anyone would suspect. And sometimes the scariest part of any investigation wasn't finding the monster. It was realizing you'd been working alongside one all along. Chen picked up a phone and dialed a number she'd hoped she'd never need. When the voice answered, she spoke 3 words that would start a new investigation, one that would be even more dangerous than the last. I need help. Because this time, the enemy wasn't locked in a cell. This time, the enemy had access to everything. Every case file, every witness statement, every person who might be able to expose the truth. And Chen had just made herself target number 1. The Marsh case was officially closed. But some cases, the real ones, they never truly end. They just wait in the dark, patient, watching, until someone brave enough or foolish enough decides to shine a light into places where light was never meant to go. If this story left you breathless, if it made you question everything you thought you knew about justice and monsters and the line between them, then you understand why I do this. Subscribe, because the next story goes even deeper. And trust me, after what you just watched, you're going to want to know what happened to Detective Chen. Some endings aren't endings at all. They are just the beginning of something much, much worse.